Uh-huh. We are live, and this is a pair programming hangout for website one. So, Sly, I understand the you have the website one app installed and running on your local machine. Is that right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my desktop so that we can talk about basically. I can point to different things in real time. So, have you figured out Pivotal Tracker?
Yeah, I've took a look at it.
So you found the epic, the refactoring epic?
Yeah, sure. I did a search as you suggested, and I
Right.
found it in the backlog.
Yeah. So like I said, the problem is that this epic here, it is marked as finished because there were in the beginning there were only two stories there, and they're both done. Um, but there is still definitely a lot of work left to do in terms of upgrading to RSpec 3. So if this is where you want to start, then there's definitely work to be done.
Yeah, sure. I'm leaning towards your suggestion that refactoring our specs will help me figure out the code base and know more about the source code of the site. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's for the best at the
Yeah.
moment.
Okay, so yeah, I started the same way. Like I said, um, I basically I went. You can see my desktop, okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go into the spec folder here for the project, um, you said too that maybe view specs would be the easiest to tackle, and I think that's definitely true. Um, so, like I said, I went to view specs for documents, and when I started, there were, I think, four different spec files here, and I went through them and um, updated the syntax to the new RSpec 3 standards, and also, you know, as much as you can. And in the beginning, I suspect that it's not the easiest thing, but as much as you can, if you see that some refactoring is in order, so not just an update syntactically, but where the spec is not using the best approach to do something, then definitely that is something else that you can do as well.
Yeah.
Is there any particular do you have any feeling which of the specs you would like to tackle?
As you suggested, I have reviewed the project specs
Yeah.
and not much of the rest, but
Okay.
I think once I have a better view of what's needed to be done, I will be able to move on refactoring the other specs as well.
Okay.
So I'm having a few questions
Sure.
I'd like to ask. So first one, yesterday I've tried to get a better grasp about the new syntax that is supposed to be introduced to the specs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not very well informed about it, and as far as I could see, it's that most of it is replacing should with expect.
Yeah, that's a large part of it. In fact, that is one change that so far it is not raising any deprecation warnings. So you won't see it automatically come up when you run the specs. So it's basically up to you to scan through the files and find all the instances where you can replace should with expect.
Yeah, I saw that some of the specs for projects are already with expect.
Right. So I ran here. So what you see here is the output of me running the project view specs right here, and there is only one deprecation warning here. and it is this one. So to show you what that means, maybe I guess I can open I know that there is here. So originally, the way RSpec worked is as long as you had this directory structure, that you had a spec folder. In the spec folder, you had, for example, the views folder. In the views folder, you had other subfolders. RSpec would automatically figure out that the specs in the views folder are view specs. Makes sense, right? The specs in the controller folder are controller specs, the specs in the models folder are model specs, etc. But this is something that they're deprecating. And this is what this message says, that RSpec Rails 3 will no longer automatically infer spec type from file location. And there has been some discussion because you can enable that functionality, but by default it is disabled. But in the end, it was decided that it's better to conform to the new standards. And basically what that means is right here. You have this describe block, and here we explicitly indicate that the type of this spec is a view spec.
Okay, I've noticed it. I've noticed it on a spec in one spec in projects, but it was not mentioned in all specs.
Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, here I see that in the show spec, it's there, but in the index and edit, it isn't.
Yeah.
So yeah. So this is one immediate, very quick change that you can introduce. The other one, as you mentioned, the should. So again, edit, I think everything seems to be using the current syntax of expect rendered, but in the index you can see the syntax is still the old one, rendered should. Yeah.
And I have another question about the I'm not sure how these are called, but the preset values that we are using for the tests. There are some tests that we are setting the variables in the test itself, and other tests that are using factory girl.
Yeah, so we're moving we're trying to use exclusively factory girl, and there are two reasons for that. One is that you have centralized factories that always generate exactly exactly one type of an object, and you know that that object is valid, so everything should work. The other reason is that, I guess depends on how you define your variables in the specs, but factory girl has this very, very useful method called build stubbed. Maybe I can, yeah, right here. So that this is in my old refactoring, you can see that I'm using everything factory girl build stubbed. And the advantage of this is that it does not touch the database at all. So all the specs run very fast, and there is no dependency on the database, meaning that you're only testing the view. So again, in here, for example, definitely it would be a very good idea to replace this stub model with factory girl.
Okay, so I'm going to do this as well as implement factory girl factories when there isn't at the moment.
Right, right.
So I will probably take a better look at build step because I haven't used this one yet. But we'll, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say on Agile Ventures, I think if you go to the website one project itself, Yarrow recently wrote, is it in here, I wonder? There was recently or maybe it's an article. There we go. So yeah, Yarrow wrote this article about testing with RSpec, stubs, mocks, factories, what to choose. And you can look here. It touches on this factory girl build stub specifically. And there is, I think in the comments, okay, I didn't put a link to the article, but I can share it. I'll try to remember and share it with you on Slack. There is an article from Thoughtbot, I think, that explains build stubbed very well and explains all the advantages of using it instead of build or create.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my other question was that I'm not very sure about it, but I saw in the gem file that we are using RSpec below version 3.
Yeah.
So how is this going to happen for the refactoring? I mean,
it won't affect. So you can use the new syntax already.
Despite it's not using version 3.
Yeah. In fact, we're not using version 3 yet because all these deprecation warnings are going to turn into errors when we upgrade to RSpec 3. So this is why the refactoring is important right now, because we want to get rid of all the old syntax that is not supported anymore in RSpec 3, and then we upgrade, and that way hopefully nothing will break because of the upgrade.
Okay, I see.
But yeah, feel free to. There's no problem at all with using expect, with declaring explicitly the spec type. This is all supported by the current version of RSpec that we have.
Okay, so I'm basically going to run the specs file by file and look for deprecation messages and fixing them.
Yeah. Like I said, they give you some guidance, but not complete guidance. And actually, the other thing about this particular deprecation warning that you see here, that we talked about, this explicit declaration of spec type, this deprecation warning does not go away. Even when you do the explicit declaration, from what I've seen, it stays. I think they automatically include it, regardless of whether you have this explicit declaration or not. So don't think that you add this and you still see the deprecation warning. There's no problem there. It's fine.
Okay.
They're just really warning you. Actually, while we're talking about the RSpec, and here is another example of a newer syntax. So this is stubbing a method on a controller. And before we actually used to use the stub syntax. I don't know if I can find it anywhere in the project specs. Yeah, this is using the newer syntax already.
Yeah.
But, okay, maybe this isn't relevant for the time being because it looks like there is nowhere that. There we go. See here it says view stub.
Yeah.
You signed in. So instead, the newer syntax and the one that we're switching to is this allow something to receive the method. And if you need, you also specify what the return should be. So this is another example of syntax that should be updated.
So in this particular case, I guess I should write allow view to receive. I mean, should it work like that? Because I'm not really sure if it will work with the view.
Where did I even see it? I lost that place. Was it in the index? Yeah, view stub. That's a very good question.
Well, I will
Yeah,
probably try to figure it out by
yeah.
myself.
Off the top of my head, I cannot tell you. But yeah, try it both ways. I mean, here, we're stubbing the controller method explicitly, so maybe you will have to do it the same way as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other
And
questions?
yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking about the right way to start working because I've read the articles about installing the project and so on,
Mm-hmm.
but I've installed it maybe a couple weeks ago, and actually I didn't find any resource about syncing my current fork with the original fork of website one, and
Right.
I did a fetch, and I mean I found an article in Stack Overflow,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure if it's the right way. I fetched the repository and then did a rebase of my repository with the fetched one,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yeah, the way I usually do it, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with the way that you did it. Where would be a good place for, maybe I'll put some comments in here. So typically, or actually, let me do this. So what I have, can you see this okay?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I have these three different remotes set up. Well, Heroku is something that we can ignore for the time being. But basically, um, so you probably set up your project the same way. You forked it on GitHub from website one.
yeah,
Yeah, and then you cloned it to your local machine, and this creates this origin
yeah.
upstream or origin remote. Do you have the upstream as well?
Yeah, part of the instructions were adding an upstream. I'm not
Okay.
really sure if I have the fetch and push, but I probably do.
Okay. Yeah.
So I have the upstream, yeah.
Okay. So the way I typically would, the way I typically synchronize my local copy with the sort of the official website one is um, git pull upstream develop. So you're telling Git to pull the branch develop from upstream, so directly from the Agile Ventures repository. Uh,
Okay, and then
and
you push it to your origin.
yeah, and then after it does that, and mine, I think is, there we go, a whole bunch of stuff came in. Right, because Brian just recently, uh, he he merged a few pull requests, and so yeah, after that I do git push, and this pushes it um, to my GitHub repository. And yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely something that you want to do before you create a new local branch to start working on, because you want to base it on the most recent code that's available.
Okay, so this should be sufficient in order to get the most recent changes. I mean, I don't need to do any rebase or something like that.
No, no. So once you're here, once you've done what I just did, you can do get checkout B and whatever new branch name.
Okay, is
And
there a standard for the branch naming of the features and such? I
no, there is no
mean,
standard. Try to make it short but descriptive, I guess.
okay,
So, for example, in your case, refactor project view specs, would be a I think it's
Okay.
self-explanatory and clear. Clear.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that you need to be aware of course, is that while you're working on your code, the remote repository might change because Brian might merge new code into it.
Sure.
And so you will need to do a rebase before you submit a pull request.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is something that we don't need to cover it now. When your work is finished, then you can do another pairing session with me or with somebody else, and if you need a walk through the rebase process and resolution of any merge conflicts, then you need to do that. But it should be pretty straightforward because nobody should be doing the same things that you're doing. Even if they're doing something with project views and project view specs, they may touch the same code as you, but it's not very likely. We don't have that many people working at the moment anyway that there is a danger of this. So, the rebase should be painless. Yeah.
Should I probably mark in some way in Pivotal Tracker that I'm working on this?
Yes, definitely. Have you been added to the team list on Pivotal Tracker?
I guess not. I could view the stories, but I don't have a sign-in or any account, so
Okay.
I won't be able to add any stories, I guess.
Okay. So, but do you have your own profile on Pivotal Tracker?
I guess I have, but I'm not really sure at the moment, so I could check this later and post it at the Slack.
Okay. So what I can do in the meantime is I can add a story to this refactoring epic. So there are the two stories that are done. One was Christopher's, one was mine. So we can add a new story. Let's say refactor. So what is it? Project view specs. Update. It really shouldn't be a feature this or features are things that visibility on the actual.
I'm sorry, the connection is I can barely hear you. Could you repeat your last sentence?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Kinda. I'm not really sure what happened.
Repeating if not.
I can still hear you. Maybe could you write this in the chat window?
So what I am saying is that refactoring is
Okay, I see.
So yeah, so here.
Yeah, I think I hear you now.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm marking it as a chore. It doesn't have any points associated with it, again, because it's not a feature. So that story is created, and you should be able to just click start, and it will get assigned to you.
But that's after I have a user and I have signed in with it.
I suspect, yeah, that you need to create an account on Pivotal Tracker first, and then you can do this. I don't know if you need to be added to the team to start a story.
Mhm.
And if it turns out that you do, then we will need to contact Brian probably to do that. Um, you can try it right now. If you go to
Okay.
Pivotal, see if you can start this story.
Without signing in, or try to sign in first.
Just try it without even signing in first. I imagine that you'll have to sign in, but
Okay, I'll try. Is there any? Um, it has to be in the backlog or not?
it's in the eyes box, I guess. What I can do is, yeah, right, yeah, you're right. So I can take it from the eyes box and put it in the backlog. Can put it right in the. And can you see it in there now?
Just a second. I'm refreshing the page because I'm not really sure if they update on the go. Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
So I'm trying to start it, but I think nothing happens
Yeah.
actually. It doesn't even say you have to be logged in. So yeah, I'm going to create an account and then go back and
Yeah.
start it.
Yeah. Um, if it still doesn't let you start it, and I'm sorry I can't be more helpful. I'm not very familiar with Pivotal. I think it should let you start it, but if it doesn't, um, let me know on Slack. And what I'll do is, I don't know, either I'll start the story myself or I'll put a comment in here saying that you're working on it, so that nobody else takes it.
Okay. As far as I spoke with some of the other guys on Slack, they told me that I don't need an account yet. So at the point I'm going to be ready to get a pull request, then is the moment that they are going to add me to the group of users.
Right. Okay. So it sounds based on that you should be able to start the story without being added to the team.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to create an account
Hmm.
and start it and let you know in Slack if
Yeah.
I am not able to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So
Is
thank
there
you
anything?
for.
Yeah. Nothing else?
Yeah, I think no, not at the moment. I will take
Mhm.
a better look at the specs and we'll let you know if I have some other
Mhm.
questions.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Have fun with it.
Yeah, thanks. Have a
All
nice
right.
day.
Yeah. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.